So this video is going to help you with the statistics vocabulary assignment that's causing some difficulty. So the main 5 things that we're going to look for when we're given a scenario is population, parameter, sample, statistics, and variable. So your population, it's defined as everyone or everything in a group. It can be people, animals, or items that we define as entirely in one group. So think about like the US population. We're including everybody in the United States in that population. We haven't made any definitions of who is or isn't in that group. We're just looking at the entire group. So we're going to look for words like all and everybody to show who's included. So the parameter is the characteristic that describes a population. So you're going to think of it where it's talking about a characteristic that describes everyone or all of the group. It can be an average, minimum, maximum, or general characteristics of the population. So that is what is being measured. The big difference between population and parameter is population is who we're studying, parameter is what we're studying. So think of it in terms of this. So the population is who, and the parameter is what. Okay? Kind of same thing with sample. Sample is a group that is part of a population. Larger samples can give us better estimations of the population, but most of the time we have to be careful with those smaller samples because that's what we're allowed to get, or that's who we have access to. So when you're thinking about a sample, look for words like group, survey, sample, are part of to show who's included. Also, another thing that we do a lot of times with sample is we survey to find a specific opinion or belief. Remember, how they answer doesn't determine if they're in a sample. It just gives an indication of that answer. I'm going to show you an example in just a few minutes of what I'm talking about. But remember, so if I wanted to know people who like Pepsi or Coke, and I wanted to I wanted to know in the state of Georgia, do people prefer Pepsi or Coke? Well, my population is the state of Georgia. The parameter is their opinion if they like Coke or Pepsi. And then the sample is if I take a part of that group, part of Georgia, say I want to look at Atlanta, Macon, and Albany. And then the statistic is who in that sample likes Coke, Pepsi, or which one. So that's what we need to be remembering is your sample is who, and that's who of that population. So again, the sample is another who question, who, but it's also smaller because it's part of the sample, which is part of the population. Very similar is the statistic. The statistic is the characteristic that describes that sample. Again, it can be the average, minimum, maximum, and a general characteristic of the sample. It is what's being measured. So again, this is a what. The big thing about that is, remember, population and sample is who you're studying. The parameter and the statistic is what you're studying. The variable is the characteristic for one person, animal, or item. It's the exact measurement you want from that one person, animal, or item. So again, while parameter and statistic is what, the variable is also what. It's what that characteristic I'm looking at a very simplistic level. So another thing that some of the homework can cause trouble with is when we talk about proportions. And remember, proportions can be seen as fractions or parts of groups. So if I said the proportion of people who like Coke or don't like Coke, I could say 3/5 of the people liked Coke and 2/5 did not like Coke. You can also think of it as percentages. And they can be really confusing when you're thinking in terms of samples and populations. So let's look at the one that's commonly missed in the homework. For example, a politician is interested in the proportion of voters in his districts who think he's doing a good job. All right, so the key thing that I'm going to look for is voters in his district. So that for me tells me of who I'm going to be studying. So for the population, it's going to be all the voters in the district because he needs to account for as many people as he can to see if he's doing a good job or not. So remember, all the voters in his district is the who that he wants to be studying. Now, what he wants to know is he doing a good job? So I'm going to put this in a different color. So I'm going to do this in green. So he wants to know who thinks he's doing a good job or what. So remember, the who is the population. So the parameter is the proportion of all voters in the district who think he's doing a good job. So here we go. Is doing a good job. So that's what they're studying. They're studying if he's doing a good job or not. And again, we have all of the voters in the district. So again, we have the who, and now we have the what. What does he want to know? If people think he's doing a good job. Okay, for the sample, this one is very similar to the population, but again, we're looking at a group in his district. Unfortunately, it might be hard for him to get the opinion of every voter in his district, so that's why we sample, to get a group of people, of voters in that district. So again, that's the who. So when we think about the statistic, here we go again. We have a group of voters in the district. So again, that's the who, but now we want to know, do they think he's doing a good job? Okay, and again, we have that proportion, but remember, just think of the proportion as the opinion we're trying to get. Do they think he's doing a good job? Do they not think he's a good job? Doing a good job. All right, so the variable for this is what we're really looking at, and that is the opinion of the registered voters. So that again is that one thing we want to know. So the opinion is he's doing a good job, he's not doing a good job, they don't care, they don't know. So that's the big deal about that variable, is that it's the opinion of the voters, and that's what he wants to get. The proportion again is if he's doing a good job, because the proportion could say he's doing a good job. Another proportion can say he's not doing a good job. And even another proportion could not know what kind of job he's doing at all, because they might not even know who he is. So that again is why we're breaking it down into the who and the what. All right, let's do another one. A fitness center is interested in the mean amount of time a client exercises in the center each week. Okay, so what we want to know is the fitness center wants the average amount of time a client exercises in the center each week. So think of this, when you go work out in a health club and you want to use the treadmill, and say you use the treadmill for an hour and a half, and say that lots of people use the treadmill for an hour and a half. But unfortunately, you might not have enough treadmills to serve those clients. So you might need to know, okay, I have this many people coming in and they work an average of this much time out, so that I can plan for the machines. Do I need to buy any more? Do I need to add more classes? That kind of thing. It can help you with planning. All right. So remember, we're looking at a client is the who. That's who they want to know about. And they want to know about the mean time of exercise is the what. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it in green. Remember, yellow is who, green is what. So for the population, it's who I want to study. So if we're looking at the clients, I want to know all the clients in the fitness center, because that's your population. Anybody who's considered a client would be part of that population for that fitness center. All right. So the parameter. So again, I want to know about all the clients. So here's my key, all clients. Again, trying to get everybody in that population included. But I have to take that step further and go to the amount of time they exercise in 1 week. Excuse me. Let me get that down. Okay. So again, up here, we talked about 1 week, and here we're talking about 1 week again. So remember, the who is all the clients of the fitness center. So I've taken it here for the population, and it's here in the parameter. But remember, that parameter is that characteristic. So I want to know the average amount of time everybody, all the clients exercise in 1 week. Okay? All right, so sample. Remember that sample is I'm taking a group from that population. So if I'm taking a group, I can't take everybody, but I can choose some randomly selected clients. So again, remember, population is all, sample is some of them. Okay, and that's who I want to know. I want to know some select clients that use the fitness center for a given week. So the statistic is, again, I'm getting that sample of my clients, but I'm taking it a step further. I want to know the average amount of time that they exercise in 1 week. Very, very similar to the parameter. And that's the case, that your parameter and your statistic should almost be identical. The only thing that's different is all for the parameter and a sample for the client. That's it. Parameter is everybody, statistic is just part of it. Okay? And then the variable, remember, it's not the number of people, it's the amount of time a client works out. Why? Because say you and I and 2 other people we know go to the same fitness center. You may work out more than me, and even another person that we know might work out so much longer than the both of us. But there might be a person that doesn't go to the fitness center that week. So it's easier for them to take how much time you went to the fitness center, how much time I did, and those other 2 people, and then they find the average. The average is when we're looking at the groups. The variable is when I'm looking at one person. That's what we want to know. So I hope this helps. And remember, it's mostly for this exercise. It's the who and the what. That's the most important part. And this guide is available to help you understand the concepts. Thanks.